Hello and welcome to the Shimyu the animation after show. I almost said 2, but this is episode 8, Aspiration, and I'm your host George, and like always with me is Barry.
Let's get sweaty.
And that's kind of what we do in this episode. So, in this episode, the Wood, we have to find the third one. We already found 2 of them, and it's kind of weird that they're literally putting a whole episode to each one of these, which is crazy because it's like in the game they didn't feel like it was that big. And I think this episode has the most, like the one that kind of like stuck the most, you know, the act without hesitation one, because it kind of became a mantra of the franchise in the end, right? Like when it was like, when they did some promotion, they used it, right? Like the fact that Ryu would act without hesitation is the one that made a bigger deal of out of all of them, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
But it's still kind of weird. How do you feel about the whole idea of them like doing a whole episode for each one? That's 30% of the episodes.
Yeah, I think it's really stretching it out. To be quite honest, I'm getting kind of, I wouldn't say bored, but I'm just like, I know what's coming. Like, I get it now. Like, I've caught on that each one's going to be a wood.
Yeah.
So I'm like, great. All right, let's get through these 4. I want to get to the good stuff, you know?
Well, because the Yellowhead building, the next bit when you leave Hong Kong, is some of the best. Not only that, they had no Rin in this episode either, which is one of the bigger, more popular characters in this game, I would say.
Right.
Yeah, so it's kind of weird that they're kind of like saving them. So let's talk about some of the stuff the episode had. We had the bad ending for Shimyu 2, which is like a thing they've been doing where Ryu is actually sleeping and having these visions that could happen. Obviously in the video game it actually happens if you wait too long. Here they're doing it like a deadly premonition kind of a thing. Yeah, so I like this. I think it's cool. This is like some of the stuff I like in, like, I don't know, Dune, that he has dreams, or it kind of, obviously these two things are intertwined, right? The hero story.
Right.
Yeah, so I thought it was cool. They also did these title cards for each Wood, just in case people forgot, which was Gon and Jai. And I think it's cool that they added these. It reminded me a lot of of like Yakuza. When you meet a new character, they're like, choosh, choof, you know. And this, it's whatever. I mean, okay, so we have more Wong and Joy in this episode, so I just wanted to ask you, what do you think about their characterization? Because, like, when you play the game, you see it through Ryu's point of view. Here, we have more of them going back and forth with each other, and it's more like Wong being the cheap, like, wanting money for everything he does. Joy's, to be honest with you, is kind of lame. She's just, like, looking to do Ryu favors, the guy from Japan she barely met. And that's actually my only issue with these two characters, is that when they interact without Ryu, he's still the center of attention, even though he's not there at all. Like, they don't have no lives. Like, their lives literally started when they met Ryu. Like, there's nothing else there.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I like seeing the, I guess, NPCs from the game interact outside of Rio, but you're right. Like, you'd expect them to be talking about more than just Rio. And I feel like, I mean, they talked about him too in Shenmue 1, but these are also people that grew up with him.
Yeah.
And now these are people who just met him, and they're just constantly talking about him when he's not around. It's kind of funny, but it's cool to see more of them. And I'm glad they're in this episode, because otherwise it would be like a lot of characters who had very small screen time in the game getting whole episodes to themselves, which, you know.
It'd be weird, yeah.
It would be weird.
It's funny because in the first, you know, when they did the dad, the grandpa, his dad's friend and all that, and how they tied all these characters together with Ryu's mission, it made sense. Joy seems to have no, like, connection so far to Ryu that much to care this much about him, especially considering her character is sort of like this independent woman.
Right.
Yeah. We meet, what's this girl's name? Eileen M. Edelweiss, which is also the name of the tank from Valkyria Chronicles, the medium tank that they have in every single cover and all that. So,
yeah.
So she's a Canadian martial arts person. I don't know. She's from Pigeon Park. She is in the game. Let me see. I think I have her somewhere up here. So she is from the game, which is interesting. She's in the same spot, Pigeon Park. She's a really minor character outside of, like, if you do Feng Mei's birthday and stuff, they're friends supposedly, so she shows up there more. She's also in the tournament later on that you make money if you fight all the way to the top. Outside of her character, she's really minor. She has an even more minor role in this episode. They just kind of fight in Pigeon Park. And my thing is, like, Ryu is not very good at finding people that are masters, because he's like, all right, let's just go to this random park and talk to this Canadian 18-year-old girl. So it's like, all right, cool, guy. She's 17, sorry, in the game.
Right.
100 years old now. She was born in 1969, so yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny that, like, the game takes place in a certain area where I always think it's like a modern game for some reason in my mind. Like, oh, this character's always 17 forever.
Yeah. It could be a little confusing.
Then we got what was this character's name? I have it over here. Oh, Azumi Takano, which she's an interesting character in, like, for fans. She just had a little, like, oh, I know Kung Fu, but I don't know the guy. I don't know anything about the Voodoo for some reason, or Wood. In the game, she was supposed to, I guess she got more, like, street cred from fans because, first of all, she works at the tomato convenience store. That's about, like, her whole characterization, really. And she's Japanese, just like Ryu, but she was supposed to be a love interest for Ryu, I think, before Nozomi was picked. And her model is used in the What's Shimyu demo.
Right.
So,
yes,
yeah.
That's right.
So her model goes back a bit, and so it was weird. I didn't think they were gonna add her, by the way, when the anime happened, because she's such a small, like, cameo. I thought she was gonna be like a background character. But I guess they gave her some characterization, just like this person is this person. But she's obviously going to be part of the tournament thing. I don't know if they're going to... You think they're going to do, like, a tournament episode where he has to fight these people?
I hope so, because kind of having them be one-off characters for this episode would be a little disappointing. Like, if this was building... Like, here's the thing. Like, I'm not going to say that this was a bad episode or the previous ones were, because I want to see how this series plays out. It could, end up being that we're like, oh, I really liked when they spent 4 episodes looking at the Wood, because it really took something that was small in the game and applied it to the anime, and it made it more important to Ryu'S journey, which I think is what they're doing. And I think hopefully we'll see a payoff where all 4 of them contribute in some way to the anime itself, rather than being something setting up events in, like, Shenmue 4 that we may never see, and I think that's one of the big problems with the games, is that they're always setting up for a story elements that we have yet to see. And even Shenmue 3 failed to deliver on that for a lot of things that people have been waiting 20 years for. And so what I'd hope is that the anime spends less time setting things up that we're not going to see pay off in this season or the next season, if there is one, but actually tells, like, at least just a contained story within this that would, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. You want the payoff for these characters, especially since Ryu has to leave eventually from Hong Kong. Like, these characters ain't gonna follow him around.
Right. And I mean, you see that a lot in movies where it's a failed attempt to do a cinematic universe, like The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2 with Andrew Garfield. They set up a bunch of stuff, but you never got the payoff because they canceled the trilogy. And Shenmue's kind of the same, because they set up a lot of stuff. We never got the payoff because there was no third game for years and years. And so I hope that, and I feel like the anime is at least giving us some self-contained story elements, so that when we conclude it and potentially never see a conclusion, like, we may not see Shenmue 3 animated. You never know. Yeah. I mean, fingers crossed when the last episode airs, they say we're already at work on a season 2. So
I think this anime at least started off strong. I have my my reservations with these last few episodes. They're not terrible. They're just kind of middle of the line. especially considering like some of the more stronger earlier episodes. But I hope it hooks people enough to keep it going, you know, and hoping for an end.
Absolutely.
We got these random thugs fighting. I think, well, they explained the violence later, and I thought they did a good job in the anime, but I wanted to see more of this Shimyu 2 shot. They compare the animation. This is done by Shimyu Dojo. You guys could, they do a lot of these kind of like comparing the anime with the game. Well, this scene is actually
Love the dojo.
Yeah. So this scene right here isn't actually in Shimyu 2. What happened is they rigged the game and the models to emulate the anime. I just thought it was cool that they did it like within the universe. I actually thought this was real. I'm like, did I skip a scene where Shu Ying is like knocking the crap out of these random people in the streets? But no, this is that's
amazing.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. I didn't know that people were doing that. That's sick. We also got her background a little bit, which is a black and white flashback to her brother, who has really long hair. I don't even remember what her brother looked like. Did they ever show her brother, or was it just her talking about her brother?
I don't think we ever saw her brother.
That's what I'm thinking.
I don't think
too.
so.
So I thought this was kind of an interesting thing. Her brother and her story and the why she doesn't want to help Ryu is one of the better storylines in 2. So they're really milking it until they actually tell the viewer the story. So I'll leave that as a surprise. So we got the whole Joy explaining to Ryu why there's decrepit buildings, why everyone's poor in Hong Kong, and it's basically because of it's an actual time, you know, thing that happened in Hong Kong where the British Empire let them go and be independent, and they kind of grace or talk about it a little bit. They don't really go into details. This is something I wish Joy would talk more about, how this affected her life and became the person she was, and Wong, a street kid. I thought this would be interesting. I'm surprised it's something that I don't need. Did they even talk about this in the game? The Hong Kong and British Empire stuff? Or was it even...
You know,
because I know they had flags.
I can't say... I mean, yeah, maybe if you talk to enough NPCs, they might talk about this, but I don't recall. Doesn't ring any bells for me.
I thought this was a little cool thing about it. I wish there's something they like focused something up. I know that politics might be, I don't know, is there anybody political about this event? I mean, I'm not. I'm just like, it's something that happened in time, you know what I mean? We also got a new flashback, very tiny flashback of Ryu's dad, and I've noticed that in the game they make him an asshole. Like, he's like, "You're not good enough, kid," or whatever. Keep that in mind. You are lacking. Can you imagine your dad telling you this every time you like did anything? Sorry, Barry, you're lacking. It's like, all right, man. Don't try to start.
Who says he doesn't?
I mean, that's true. I don't know. Your dad just called you yesterday, and he's like, lacking, Barry. What do you think about this? That like they kind of made him the tough dad? Because I mean, maybe he always was, but we didn't really get that much flashbacks, and the ones we did were about carrots.
Yeah, no, he seemed like a loving dad, just a little strict, but he seemed friendly, and I mean, Rio loved him enough to miss him. It's not like he's like, thank God.
He's all God.
You did me a favor, Landi. Thank you. He
decided never to change again and wear the same outfit. He's like, thank God my dad's gone. I could wear the same shirt and pants. But I will say it's weird though that like they made him very, very strict here. I was surprised. Every time they do a flashback, it's something strict. And then we finally finished the episode with Ryu'S Zhang. I can't even say her name. The old lady that you've been talking to since you got to China. She's the one that gives you the other wood, and she it's to act without hesitation for what is right, which happens to be the most important one in my opinion. And like, so it's nice that they did it, but it just came out of nowhere, and I guess it was supposed to be like that in the game too. This old lady.
Absolutely.
That you least suspected is one of the Kung Fu masters. And that's how they leave the episode. That's the end of it. I'm assuming the next one is the barbershop guy that tries to kill you.
Barbershop?
Wasn't that the first one, though, in the game? Right? The barbershop dude?
I mean, maybe it's not in order.
No, I don't think
But
so either. But like, I just thought it
no.
was funny. I was like, I swear. And for some reason, I thought the barbershop guy was in the first game, and then I started rethinking. I'm like, no, I'm thinking about the tattoo guy in the first game. So yeah. Besides that, to me, it was if I had to pick, I would say it's like a C minus, C around there episode. It's just middle of the road so far. It's not like, it's not offensively bad, but what will you give it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to give it like a rating, I guess, but it's not my favorite episode. And the thing with this series is it's not a show that you revisit like one episode. Like you're like, oh, I'm just gonna throw on episode 4, you know.
It's a
Like
story.
that's how I am with like Mandalorian or you know, like I don't know, like Sopranos or something. Like I can just toss on an episode. But this show, it's like if I am gonna rewatch this one, it's gonna be in a rewatch. And I will be rewatching this. I don't have access to the English dub, so once that becomes available, fingers crossed, there's like a Blu-ray release with both languages. I'll definitely rewatch this. But this episode, yeah, it didn't really do much for me. But like I said, I'm not gonna really knock it until we get to the end of the season.
I kind of wish that they did a whole, like, just release them all back to back, because I feel like if we watched it from beginning to end, we probably wouldn't be as picky than watching it weekly, you know what I mean? Because there's so many unanswered questions on how they're going to handle some of the future stuff. But maybe...
I kind of agree, but I don't like those kind of like binge dumps, because then everyone just binges the whole thing on day one and spoils everything, and other people are like, I kind of want to let this simmer.
Yeah, I guess that does suck though. If you're like I watch, like, if I could, like maybe an episode or 2 a day, but like obviously in a week you could probably finish 13 episodes pretty simple, even in like that slower pace. But I do agree, it's lame when there's a show that came out and like somebody watches it all day, 12 hours, the first 6, you know, right when it comes out, and they're like, oh yeah, this happened to me.
And I think Shenmue deserves this. I think Shenmue being in the spotlight for 3 months is pretty awesome. And I think if they just dumped this on day one, we wouldn't be talking about this. I mean, obviously we wouldn't be doing these podcasts, but like I don't think we would be talking about the anime at all, because we'd have already seen it, and we'd be like, oh, that was cool. You know, like,
and then we'd be whining about too.
Well, we get to speculate and all that kind of fun stuff. I mean, Squid Game came and went in one day. And I just hate that, because I wanted to enjoy the show and watch it over a period of time, and I'd hear like, oh, the old man, and I'm like, well,
I'm done. Yeah. You already spoiled it for everyone. But I will say that Squid Games is one of those, like, it had enough cliffhangers to keep the hook for the next week. That's one of the shows that really did work, being a weekly show. That, like, Lost or something.
It should have been a weekly show, because imagine if we were talking about that show for 6 to 8 weeks. Like, that would have been really fun. We'd all be like, oh man, the finale's tonight. And that's what Disney Plus is doing really well, and that's what I think Crunchyroll is doing well with the Shenmue anime. I'm very happy that it's a weekly release and that we get to do these. I'm actually looking forward to the last episode, not just of Shenmue, but of the after show, just because it's going to be kind of like, we did it.
Yeah, 5 more. I'll close it up. So let us know in the comments below, what was your favorite episode so far. Do you think the Wood are getting each one episode is too much? What do you think about the new characters announced? 2 girls that like Ryu and think he's cute, I think these are 2 of the girls. And he is. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.
Bye-bye.